Good afternoon. Welcome to All Hands on Deck. My name is Doris Davenport, and I'm your host for the afternoon. We want to give a special shout out to Pastor Ira Ackrey, your regular host on All Hands on Deck. He is actually right now in Israel doing a prayer and study trip. So we want to welcome you all to All Hands on Deck. I have a special guest for you today, and that is none other than State Representative Camille Lilly. Welcome to All Hands on Deck.
Thank you, Doris. Glad to be here.
You are more than welcome. And as you all know, here at All Hands on Deck, we are here encouraging the masses to be independent-minded. And if you have a call for us as we get into our discussion today on civics, please give us a call at 312-738-1060. Now, State Representative Lilly, we are coming up on a really great election time. We just have come through a period with the presidential election, and there have been a great many of implications with this last election.
It has.
And so if we ever had a reason to make sure that our next generation of voters is informed and thinking about voting with a serious mind, we know that that time exists right now. And I know that you've been very busy working and advocating on behalf of civics in the high schools. Now, what I'd like to do first is to just take a step back. I remember back in 2015, around the country, there were many school districts and advocates that were talking about passing some kind of a bill or that would enhance social studies. Social studies, we know, is what prepares our children for careers, for problem solving, and to prepare them, of course, for the democracy that we want them to engage in. How did you get involved in advocating for civics?
Well, Doris, again, thank you for having us and having me. We here in Illinois have been looking at the issues of poor voter turnout.
Yes.
And actually, in our 99th General Assembly, we did, through the good work of Representative Deb Conyers, we put civics back into the high school as an elective.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Is that the bill that was passed in 2015?
yes, and we need to do more than that. When we go to vote, many of our polling and where we vote are in schools,
Yes.
elementary schools. And all the children really realize on that day that we're voting is, why aren't we having gym?
And why are all those adults in our school?
We want gym. And no one talks to them about their civic responsibility as early as elementary. I have introduced this 100 General Assembly a bill that brings education back into the school from the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. It is so critical when you have less than 50% of those who, no more than 50% of those who are registered to vote will come out and vote.
Yes.
And they really don't realize that is their civic responsibilities. But I'm thinking if we educate our young people early, and because civics was once in school in social work and social studies, excuse me. Now it's not even discussed.
Yeah.
So from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we're introducing, with the support of the MacArthur Foundation, they're funding over $500,000 towards this effort into our elementary schools here in the state of Illinois. This is a piece of legislation that's going to change, I believe, how people do the things that they do. Or not do.
Or not do, that's true, because everybody has a decision to make. But I think it's great that we're doing this. So are we to understand that, one, we have the bill that was passed a couple of years ago that mandated that civics is taught in the high schools.
Yes.
And you and I both know that if we wait till high school for children to start engaging in their civic responsibility, it's too late. We're just not equipping them as we should. So I applaud you for having the foresight and, of course, the insight to look back and realize that we need to tap the children while they're much younger and start to engage them in that process. Now, I know one of the things that I find that's often missing when it comes to what the schools do, we put it in the hands of the schools, and they don't always do the right thing. And it's not necessarily the schools as much as it is the curriculum designers, and oftentimes those things are farmed out to private industry. Will you be looking at passing additional legislation that will somehow enhance or require certain elements of civics be taught?
I believe we have to kind of address the issues of funding and maybe the lack of funding for the school curricula. That's why the MacArthur Foundation came on board, and they said, Representative Lilly, we're there for the long haul. This legislation, as I mentioned, is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but the school gets to pick a semester.
Within that time frame.
Within
It's
that
one
time for a semester. And with that, which is a beginning of all the things that they will learn about their civic responsibility. They'll learn about their local elections. They'll learn about how you engage in being a responsible neighbor, responsible citizens in your own community. Many people think the volunteering is just part of what is required in the public schools as one of your things you check off that you say you've done to graduate from high school. No, it's about being engaged. It's about being a part of what makes society really sound and just really complete, which is doing your part.
Now, I'm not sure, I should never suggest that you're not aware of something because you're one of the most in-know people that I know in the state legislature. There has been a lot of talk about the intersectionality of civics and the arts and humanities. And I know the arts and humanities is something that you're dearly committed to. I know that on the federal level, there had been some talk. Now, I admit this was before this current administration, so I'm sure with the entire Arts and Humanities Council resigning all at once, that this is on has hit a hard stop. But there is an intersectionality between civics and arts and humanities that people across the country are trying to develop a real strong connection with. Because as we know, civics is really a way to get people to think about ideas and problem solving. And in the arts and humanities, this allows children to understand and learn from different cross sections of mediums of art and humanities. And they learn how to solve problems, intertwining the two. And I wonder if you all have given any of that a look yet.
Well, as you know, we, meaning the state of Illinois, we're the only state who has a Museum Arts and Culture Enhancement Committee.
Yes.
And I really believe that's another thing that Illinois is cutting edge. We see the importance of what we can do as far as our society is concerned.
Yes.
Things that we tap in that are inside people, and we want to really leash them in a positive way into our community. In the arts, in the museums, and the cultural, really, that's where we can tap into that. With that, the engagement is the key part of any civic curriculum. And many times you think it's just a book, and it's not.
Yes.
So when you tap into the arts and you are working with schools who are teaching the arts and how we support the arts as a society, you are talking civics.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so we are really creating a landscape of intersection as yours that we're educating young people about. Really, most people do not know that the economic engine for our great country, and particularly here in the state of Illinois, is the arts.
Yes.
When you're not working, what you doing?
That's right.
You're at the movies, you're going to the museum,
Yes.
you're going to a restaurant, all of which is culinaria. All these are forms of art that young people don't realize. You're taking it for granted. You think it just happens. It doesn't. It takes a training, it takes a participation, and civic education, civic engagement education within the school system, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you are building a foundation for a better citizen.
And they're ready for it at that age too, because that's a time when parents are very busy keeping an extracurriculum activity calendar pretty busy for their children. So utilizing that opportunity to really highlight this intersectionality between the two seems so appropriate. I really think that that's a good time to do it.
It was the National Center for Education and Statistics today states that only 23% of the 8th graders are proficient in civics.
Yes. Well, now I would wonder if adults would fare any better. What do you think about the question that some people have asked, wondering whether or not the citizenship test that's currently given to immigrants in order to become citizens of the country, that the citizenship test be a requirement for graduation for high schoolers?
Well, what we do have in front of us today in the 8th grade, I think 6th grade, and in high school, there's a constitution that the students take. How comprehensive it is from yesterday to today has been the question. The reason why I ask that, because when I knock on doors and visit and talk to constituents, they really don't know what a state rep does.
Yeah.
And what we're supposed to be doing on their behalf. So I take the time to explain that. And real quickly, for those adults who may or may not know,
Sure.
Your state legislators, we do basically 3 things. I like to sum it up. 1, we make law. 2, we allocate the budget. And 3, we advocate for services that the state provides for its citizens. And we make sure that those services that the citizens are saying are needed, that's going to help to bring quality of life, are in place, and we are doing our best we can to fund them.
That's awesome. That's an education process that I think is wonderful that you're taking your constituents through, because you're right. People really don't understand. They think they want to hold you accountable, but they really don't know what they have a right to hold you accountable for one thing.
Yes.
And then they're pleasantly surprised when they find out, oh, is that what you do?
Oh, I didn't know you didn't. You weren't the one that cut the trees.
That's
down.
right, that's
I
right.
said, no, that's not me.
That's not me.
But the first thing I did, once I started getting this question, my first term, I took an ad out in the Yellow Pages that really gave the definition of what a state rep does, and what an alderman does, and what a congressperson does.
Oh, good.
And I was so excited about it. I would show my little, and whenever they ask that question, here's my Yellow Pages. Now Yellow Pages are different. You know,
Yeah,
we have the
of
social
course.
media, everything is on the internet, so
Right.
I have to figure out another way. But I've come on all hands on deck to help with this communication. So I want
That's
to thank you
right.
for having me here. And thank you, Pastor Ackery, even though you're not here, I hope I come back when you are here just to talk about the things that we can do together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to shift gears now. We're going to take a brief break so that you can take a look at some information that we want you to know about. 312-738-1060 is the number you can call. We're going to be talking about SB1, and we're going to ask our state rep to give us an overview and some highlights on what is to come with SB1. But while you won't see our faces, but I want you to take a look at this. And State Representative Lilly is going to be telling you about an upcoming event that you definitely want to take some time and support.
Hello. Fitness Fun Fest, an annual event hosted by Loretto Hospital. It's our 7th annual. It's again a way of engaging our young people to be fit and ready for school. It's a back-to-school event hosted by the visionaries of the west side of Chicago, and they're all listed at the bottom in the purple area. You see it's colorful, festive, because they are not only having fun with activity and keeping their blood rushing, what they are doing is learning how important their nutrition is with their fitness. So with inflatables, the Jessie White tumblers, we have musicians, we have, I would say, talented jump roping. So we really are having
Well, you have double dutch.
We have double dutch. We have an old school dance contest and a new school dance contest.
Oh, I love it.
All about getting that movement and that blood flowing so that you can really receive the oxygen needed to make sure that your mind is healthy and your body is healthy. Come out August 26th, this Saturday, from 11 to 2, Loretto Hospital's on the campus there. Entrance is on Harrison. It's free to all. Please join us. And if you register, as it indicates here, we will reserve you your very own book bag.
Thank you so much, State Representative
You're
Lilly.
welcome.
We are so pleased to be back with you at All Hands on Deck, 312-738-1060. If you have a question about Senate Bill 1, we'd like you to give us a call, and this is the time that you can ask State Representative Lilly any question that you have regarding this bill. Would you please give us, if it's possible, to give us a brief overview of Senate Bill 1?
Brief. As you have heard over and over again, education throughout the state of Illinois has not been equitable.
Yes.
This piece of legislation, SB 1, ensures that all school districts in Illinois remain harmless as we reform the funding formula. No school's academic curriculum that they have in place at this time will be tampered with. No one's hurt in this reform. However, we have put more than $300 million more into education. And we have created a formula that funds every school district where they can create a quality education system for all school districts in the state, which means every child would have a quality education here in Illinois. Currently, Illinois is way down in the bottom of the ranking of funding education. This piece of legislation, SB 1, chief co-sponsor in the House, Representative Will Davis, in the Senate, Senator Andy Bernard, and a host of other legislators who took on this charge prior to this General Assembly, Senator Camille Lilly, Senator Don Harmon. All of these individuals have been working on this piece of legislation to make sure that every child has a quality education here in Illinois, and it's evidence-based.
Now, is this funding, is it guaranteed that the funding will be used in the classroom, or will the school districts be able to use the money any way they choose?
There's a term when I came to the General Assembly where they say home rule.
Yes.
And basically that gives districts and villages and mayors their own autonomy in implementing what they think is best based on their constituents, based on their citizens, what is best for their area.
The reason why we need civic engagement and civic
Yes.
education, so
Yes.
people know what to do. Just before you go ahead, let's take the caller that we have on the line. You have a question for State Representative Lilly?
Yes, Representative. Years ago, a lottery was started for the schools, for the education, which was great. It was started by the Democrats. But here we are. That money, because of both Democrats and Republicans, went everywhere else except into education.
I'm going to have to stop you and ask you to ask a specific question.
Yes. Whose fault is it? Republicans, Democrats, or both?
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate the call.
Well, let me say a little bit, if I heard you correctly, because it was kind of low, the lottery. The lottery was brought into the Illinois funding formula for education years ago, thinking most people thought it was going to fund education overall. The lottery, since it has been in place, only brings approximately $600 million into an annual budget. And where education in Illinois is billions. And so it never really will fund education. But where it became an issue is the policy itself said these dollars, a portion of these dollars, go towards specific things within the educational system. Granted, it's not enough. $600 million is just not enough for a quality education here in the state of Illinois. But what we did, meaning the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus, under the leadership of Representative Ford and Senator Leifer, we put law in place just this General Assembly, asking that all the dollars, as the policy has been written, go directly where it's supposed to go. And so this piece of legislation does that. It has not passed all the House and the General Assembly or House and the Senate, but we are working towards that.
And what legislation is that if people want to follow it?
I do not know the number. The
Okay.
question is new. I wasn't prepared for that question, but it is sponsored in the House by Representative LaShawn Ford.
Okay, you let me know, and we'll let the listeners know next week what the number of that legislation is. So that's important. I know the caller wanted to know who's to blame, and I have to say that I don't really think it moves us forward to get into the blame game at this point, especially knowing that that the Legislative Black Caucus, as State Representative Lilly has stated, is hard at work, has understood and agree with you that this money belongs in education, being utilized for the purposes that it was intended to be utilized for. And they're working very hard to make that happen and get this bill passed. So we want to thank you for that question. What else would you share with us as we begin to wind down and wrap up?
Well, the two things will be, meaning the House will head it back to Springfield on tomorrow to override or put efforts toward overriding the governor's veto of SB 1. So I would like everyone to call your legislator, call your governor, and make sure that they understand the importance of voting for SB 1.
That's great. And it's important to understand that no matter what is happening in your local municipality, in your local city, we all have to be paying attention to what's happening in Springfield, because it's the decisions that are being made in Springfield that impact our lives on a daily basis. So we want you to make sure that you know who your legislators are, both in the Illinois House of Representatives as well as in the Senate. And of course, you know who your governor is. And I'm telling you that if you want schools to open, well, it looks like schools will open on time, but the question is always, will they be able to stay open? And how much funding will they have that will be able to last for the remainder of the session? So call your legislators and let them know that you want them to override SB 1. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Great.
And one more thing in reference to the civics.
Yes.
The civic bill number is HB 1252, and the bill is really, really ready to go. It does not extend the school day. It is supported by the MacArthur Foundation, over $500,000, and it is ready for our children to learn more about their civic responsibility.
Great. We thank you so much for joining us here at All Hands on Deck. My name is Doris Davenport. I'm your host for the week, and we will welcome back Pastor Ira Ackery next week, and thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Thank you, State Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Doris Davenport.